press record. I was like, I won't, don't worry. Kim forgot to press record. So what I was saying before, for those of you who have just logged onto the recording, I want to do a shameless plug for the masterclasses that we're running next week before we start, simply because I've been planning the content for weeks now, weeks and weeks and weeks, researching. And I didn't know what way I was going to go with it. But now that I've decided what way I'm going to go with it, and I've started writing the content, I've literally blown my own mind. Like, I'm modest as well, aren't I? But I really have blown my own mind with it. I cannot wait to teach this content. It's going to be phenomenal. And the content that I'm teaching next week isn't just to do with fitness. In fact, none of it is to do with fitness. It will help you achieve a fitness goal if that's what you want. It'll help you to finally be able to commit to a program, or maybe you struggle getting up in the morning and going to the gym or going for a run, or maybe you struggle with eating or binging. Maybe you just want to be better in your life, in your fitness life. It will absolutely help with all that, but it will also help in any areas that you sabotage yourself, or that you just can't show up for yourself consistently, whether that is with your family, whether it's in business, in work, whether it's building a side hustle, whether it's committing to any goal that you have for yourself. So anytime where you are not showing up for yourself when you really, really, really want to, this series of masterclasses is going to lead you through a very interactive process to help you to overcome that. And like I said, I do know it is $97, but to be honest, to get 4 hours of my time plus all the help in the group afterwards, whenever you guys have got exercises and everything for everyone to do at the end of each session to lead them into the next session, whenever you go through this transformational process, you will say, I would have paid 10 times the $97. And I know you will, because the way I'm able to teach, I can take you through perceptual shifts in each of the modules that we're going to do, which means that at the end of it, you will have a completely different perceptual understanding of yourself and of the subject, which will then create permanent change, because that's the only thing that will ever create permanent change in human beings is whenever we have a perceptual shift, which means that we see things one way, or we think things are one way. And then we go through like an inductive learning process, and then we see things in a completely different light. And once you see things in a completely different light, you can't unsee them. And I know I'm spending a little bit of time talking about this. I'm sorry, I'm going to get right into the content now. I was just waiting for everyone to get on. But it's kind of like watching a movie. Whenever you watch a movie, you don't really know what's going to happen. And you're watching it and you're trying to figure out what's going on, especially if it's, one where there's different pieces, introduced to it. And then at the end of the movie, you're like, oh my God, like something happens. You have like a real aha moment. And if you were to go back and watch that movie, you can never watch it and pretend that you don't know what's going to happen. You can't pretend that you haven't seen the movie. That's what it's like whenever someone takes you through an inductive learning process, which creates a perceptual shift, which is why, to be honest, you guys all love my podcast so much, because in my podcast, what I always concentrated on was taking people through a series of perceptual shifts through the stories that I told, and then how I brought in all the different points. So at the end of the podcast, you had a real aha moment. And that's what I'm going to create next week. I'm going to create many, 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 many of these aha moments. I'm going to hopefully open up at the end of the call. It's all going to be teaching, but if I have time, I'm going to maybe talk to a couple of people at the end and do a couple of demos of the exercises, the questions that I've set live, so that you guys know what you're looking for. And I really think this is going to be the start of something big in the company, because I've wanted to move into mindset for a long time. It's something I'm so passionate about, something I love teaching, something I'm absolutely obsessed with in my own life. And I've created a little obsession here in the company. We all work with a coach. We all work with personal development coach. We have like a company psychologist who works with every single person in the company. And so we're all a bit OCD now about personal growth, and that is just filtering into what we do. Okay, so we have a lot of people on now, which is wonderful. So here is what I'm going to do. I am going to invite anybody who wants to have a chat with me. Anyone who has a particular issue that they're struggling with. And I really want you to think about, the issue that you are struggling with. And so what I want you to do is, instead of just putting your hand up and being like me, I want you to write what it is you're struggling with in the comments, just like a little short a short paragraph about what it is that you're struggling with or what it is that you would love help with. And if you want to, I'm assuming by writing in the comments, you know, what you want help with, that you're willing to be unmuted. It would also be good if you could put your hand up. I'm not sure where that happens. I don't mean physically, like wave to me. I mean, there's like a virtual hand you can put up, and it puts like a little yellow hand in the corner of your screen. If you want to have a chat, that would be great. That would be absolutely great as well. Because one of the things that I, just while I'm waiting for your questions to come up, I wanted to tell you, as I've been working through the material, one of the things I've realized is that, as far as I can see, there are 3 main levels of self-sabotage. Now, there may be more, and I may come up with more as I develop this, this concept more fully, but there are 3 main levels of self-sabotage. And before we start, I want you to see if you can identify where you fall on one of these 3 levels. So the first level that I identified is probably, I want to say 50 to 60% of people would be on this level, maybe slightly less. Actually, you know what? It might be 40. It might be 40 for level 1 and level 2. And then I would say the final level is about 20%. So the first level is where you are reasonably consistent with your goals. So let's say for on fitness, for example. So you kind of started here, maybe, I don't know, however many years ago, and you've been in fitness, you know, for a pretty regular time, and you follow a fitness program and you're really motivated, and then you kind of coast for a while, and maybe you have a wee binge once every now and then, but then you get back on the wagon and you move on up again, and you're pretty consistent with your goals. You're pretty consistent with showing up to the gym. You're pretty consistent with working out. You might not always be, you know, pushing to failure. You might not always be beasting it. You might not always be eating, you know, on a calorie and macro controlled diet. Like, you're not perfect, but you don't need to be perfect, because this is kind of a lifestyle. And so this kind of person on level 1 would sabotage in such a way that on the weekend, they would say, you know, they would decide that they're now on a healthy eating diet. They want to drop a few pounds. But then on the weekend, one of their friends would say, hey, could you want to, you know, come over for a drink? We can have a glass of wine. And you go, oh, okay, sure, no problems. You go over and you have maybe a glass of wine, maybe 2 glasses, maybe a bottle of wine. And then your friend goes, let's order pizza. Or you say, let's order pizza. So the pizza comes and you're having some pizza. And then you wake up on Sunday morning and you're like, shit, why did I do that? You know, and you kind of beat yourself up a little bit and you go, damn, why did I do that? And you feel guilty. Okay. So level 1 has a lot of kind of feelings of guilt, right, that we carry around. So that's level 1. Level 2 is the person who maybe was at some point quite overweight or quite underweight, usually quite overweight, and they have decided that they are going to get fit. So they join a program, they join a program and they beast it, they really work hard in the program and they lose quite a lot of weight, but they're nowhere near their goal weight. If this is their goal weight, they kind of get to here. And then after the program finishes, they kind of fall off the wagon and they fall back down to here, and they put a bit of the weight on. They're not pushing so hard. They feel a bit unmotivated. They're not making the best choices, but they don't fall all the way back down to here where they started, right? They go to here and they kind of fall to here. And then they go right and they pick themselves up, and then they go, okay, next level. And so they push again, right? So they start to push and start another program, and they get motivated in the gym, and they start to lose weight and start to eat healthier, and they go to here. And then that program finishes, or something gets in the way, or a relative gets sick, or they change jobs and they kind of fall off the wagon again, and they fall down here and they put a bit more weight on, but maybe they fall to here. And then they get back on the wagon, and then they go up to here. And then they kind of fall to here, and then they go up to here, and then they fall to here. So even though they're on level 2, they're rising and they're falling, and they're rising and they're falling. And to them, the falls seem horrendous. Like, the falls seem like, why can I not do this? I'm such a shit person. Like, I'm just never going to lose this weight. I just can't seem to show up for myself. There's a lot of self-beating and self-flagellation comes with it. At the end of the day, if you look at their progress from, say, 2 years ago, they started here and they're now here. So they have actually made progress. Now, had they been able to stick to the plan perfectly, which is not possible for anyone, who knows, maybe they would be here. But they weren't. They were only able to do what they can do, and at least they are here. So this person is still moving forward. They're just not moving forward at the rate at which they would like, right? So I call that level 2 self-sabotage. Level 3 self-sabotage is the hardest level of sabotage to overcome. And the reason I believe that is to be so is that it's very much based on the emotional. So this person usually carries around a lot of fear, and they are fearful of many things. They can be fearful on many things at the same time. Often things like, I don't want to go to the gym because I feel self-conscious. People might look at me. I am self-conscious about what I wear. I could never, ever do that hip thrust in the gym because that looks like I'm doing something naughty. And my father would be ashamed of me. That's actually what one of the girls said in the group once. We were like, your father would be ashamed? Like, I'd never heard that one. So she said she couldn't do a hip thrust because what would her father think? Her father was never going to see her in the gym, but that was clearly like her father was with her wherever she went, judging her for everything she did. So the hip thrusts were like off the menu for her. And so this person also has a fear of offending people. They're afraid of saying no to portion sizes. They carry around a lot of fear. And so unfortunately, and also this person is quite indulgent, right? They are comfort seekers. They really have very, very little self-control. So this person will be so inspired by this fitness program that they're going to do, and they will buy it and they will look at it. And the minute they look at it, the fear starts to kick in, but they decide that they're going to do it. Right. And God bless them. They give it their best shot. They show up at the gym. They start working out from home, and they try their best with the food, but their food is like, they're pretty big, this person. Okay. And their food is plentiful at the best of times. So even something like 1,800 calories, which is a lot of calories when you're dieting, feels like starvation to them. They feel like they're deprived, but also they use food to cover up a lot of the fear that they carry around. So they're fearful in the gym. They're fearful of what people think. They're fearful of their parents. They're fearful of their friends. They're fearful of breaking the rules, of going against the government. They're fearful of everything. And so what a lot of people do is they use food to cover up fear. This person really cannot get out of the rut. They are the kind of person who join a shred program and end up fatter at the end of it, right? Which does actually happen. And it's not because they're lazy or unmotivated or a bad person. It's because they genuinely cannot do it. And there's many reasons why I believe they cannot do it. But this one on level 3 is usually carries around a lot of fear and operates on an emotional level. So if there's other levels that you can think of, I would be totally open to hearing them. But these are the 3 levels of self-sabotage that I have come up with. And it's really important to identify which level you're on, because that is going to help you to develop strategies in order to be able to overcome self-sabotage. Because for people on level 1, sometimes it can just be an awareness of making a better decision in the moment. People on level 2 may need a few more tools in their toolbox to be able to overcome self-sabotage. And people in level 3 need a lot of emotional support. It's not even the physical for them. A lot of it is the emotional support and just making small incremental steps every single day in order to build up data. Because one thing that I have learned over the years is that fear is simply a lack of data. So we have no data about this particular thing that we're going to do. Even launching this program, I've never launched a mindset program before. I had no data whatsoever about how many we're going to sell, about really how the teaching was going to be received. I've pulled my hair out and agonized over creating the different modules, because it's not just like, straight off for me. This is something completely new for me. So I would definitely say that I have been fearful in creating this. Or certainly I've had a lot of feelings of, is this right? Is this what I should be doing? Self-doubt, not fear insofar as, but probably more self-doubt or questioning, or is this the right decision? Is this the right thing to do? But the thing about successful people is everybody feels fear. Every single person feels fear. Successful people just don't let it get in the way of moving forward. They feel the fear and they move forward anyway, and to get the data, because they understand that if they just try it, and they try again, and they try again, and they try again, they build up a consistent bank of data over time. And once you have a consistent bank of data over time, then you're no longer fearful. And so the person on level 3 may just need to gather more data and build up a consistent level of data over time in order to overcome their self-sabotage. So I love your comments. With all that, I'm going to drink my coffee. I'm going to look through your comments. You guys are all like, I would die here without air conditioning. Yes, we're all wilting here, I can tell you. Okay, just looking, there's so many comments. I actually wonder, can I make the chat bigger? Not sure if I can, but Will there be a PDF with the course? Karen is asking. Great question, Karen Davis. Yes, there will be PDFs, but only PDFs insofar as with a very brief explanation of what I covered in that particular module, and then questions at the end for you to answer for yourself. And those questions will also have examples. But what I really want to do with the questions, because sometimes they can be quite hard to answer, as in you're like, I'm not really sure I 100% understand what she's looking for here, or what I should be doing here. So what I want to do is I want to try and answer, get through at least maybe 1 to 3 people on every call and lead them through the questions and the exercises so you guys can see what it is how you should be answering. And then of course, don't forget, we have the Facebook group. And even though it is a free group, there's many free people in there. I'm going to encourage everybody after the call to share their aha moments, to share their struggles, to share what they need help with as they start to answer the questions. And myself and my whole team are going to be on hand every single day to help and support inside the group. And listen, if we need to, I'll host more calls if we need to do breakout groups or whatever. I really, really, really want you guys to get this. So this is kind of the first of what I hope is going to be a whole new side to the company. And so I really, really hope that you guys are going to join. Nisha, okay, I'm going to take a couple of these first. Nisha, I would like to know whether the course will be ADHD friendly. I've discovered this is my major problem. I'm so distractible. I simply forget and run out of time to meet all my goals. I don't know a lot about ADHD, I have to be honest. So I couldn't honestly tell you if it's going to be ADHD friendly. It's going to be me teaching like this. So exactly as you see here, this is exactly what it's going to be like. I don't have any slides. I don't have any PowerPoint presentations. I am literally just going to be teaching live. So I'm not sure if that is ADHD friendly. Hopefully it is, but don't forget you have the replay, so you can always go back and watch it many other times. And I really hope that you do. And Kathy is saying she watched the last call, made notes and planned. I love that. And then she says, I first started eating the menopause shred principles, but then it transformed to sourdough bread and tortilla chips and I could not stop. It became my unexpected refeed day. Okay, so you'd be a level 1 then, Kathy. I love that. Let me see. Sandy's saying, will there be any content shared within the Facebook group? I'm interested in the course, but I'm not a Facebook user. I want to be. No, there'll be no content shared within the group. It's just going to be for support. So, and Laurie is saying the mind shifts and aha moments from the last call were profound. Thank you, Laurie. I really appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to try and get to some questions here. Oh, Regina Fees is asking, can you really make my life even better? Oh, I know this is a question. You've created magic for me thus far. I love TSP. Well, we love you. Thank you so much, Regina. I really appreciate it. And yes, I can actually make your life better. Just ask any of the girls in here in the program and they will tell you. Okay, I'm going to scroll to the bottom and then I'm going to scroll up from the bottom. Okay. Does anybody here... Okay, Michelle is saying, she says, I've also struggled. So I don't know whether this is your first question. Michelle Lutton, I struggle with staying on track versus social activity. How do you and still have fun and be social? Okay, Michelle, where are you? I'm going to unmute you. If you want to be unmuted, I need to try to find you. If anyone else can find Michelle, then by all means, Rachel, I'm making you co-host as well. So you can add people. If anyone else can find Michelle, let me know and we can unmute her. And any of the other co-hosts can also make the team co-host. Michelle, where are you? I need to find you so I can ask to unmute you, but I can't. Michelle Lutton, that is who I'm looking for. If Michelle, wave like this, if you have your camera on for me. Oh, there you are. I see you. Yay. Hi, Michelle. Okay, I've asked to unmute.
Hi, Kim.
Hi, how are you doing, honey?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm so good. Thank you. So tell me what you're struggling with.
I just, let me step outside. I'm at the salon getting my son's hair done.
I love that multitasking.
Yeah. So I mainly just struggle with staying on task. Like I get started. I think I'm probably level 2. I get started. I did these 12, ultimate shred, had fantastic results, planned on, continuing all the way through, wanted to compete next year for 50. When I turned 50, my husband broke his arm in January and we just went completely off kilter. And now here we are sitting in June. And every time we, start getting back in, I've been trying to do the 4-week shred. And it seems like social things get in the way, activity gets in the way. Like I just cannot ever seem to stay on point. And part of the problem is I have this all or nothing attitude where,
right.
my diet isn't on point. If I miss a day of my diet being on point, well, there goes the gym, and it's like, or if, I miss the gym, well, it's an excuse to not eat good today. And it's just like a horrible cycle that I get into. And I think it's really more or less the all or nothing attitude. And then the social aspects, like I want to do me, but then I also want to be social and have a good time with everybody.
Yeah. The thing about it is the all or nothing attitude can often be how we let ourselves off the hook. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that, because I am very much an all or nothing girl as well. And I used to be like that 2 years ago whenever I started on something. But the problem with it is good to be all or nothing, but the problem is if all or nothing doesn't work for your current lifestyle, then you're just denying reality, if that makes sense. So mm-hmm. It sounds like at the minute your lifestyle isn't conducive to something like the 4-week shred or the 8-week shred or the 12-week shred. Like that's why we offer such massive cash competitions or massive cash prizes, because it's really bloody hard to stick to those kinds of programs, because like it's cardio twice a day, it's training for an hour a day, it's calorie restriction, it's cooking and prepping in advance. Like those shred programs are like based on bodybuilder style preps. And so it seems like you just need to, well, there's a couple of things. You have to really understand why you want it, first of all, because people keep jumping, you keep jumping around. Oh, got you now. It keeps moving around on my screen. You have to really understand, first of all, why you want it. The second thing you have to understand is that the shreds at the minute are not conducive to your lifestyle. So just because it worked before for you, or you did it once before, because this is what happens a lot of time. People go, but I did the 4-week shred and I got amazing results. And I just want to jump back into that again. And they try and then they fail and they go, shit, it must be me. Like I'm crap. I can't stick to a program. I know it got good results before, and I'm not going to settle for anything less than those results that I got before. That is my benchmark now for what I can achieve. So I get like a week or 2 weeks into the program, or 10 days in or 4 days in, and I fail and I go, oh, well, now I'm not going to achieve that benchmark standard of results that I got before. So I'm just going to throw in the towel. I'm just going to go back to my old ways. I'm going to start again. I'm going to start again on Monday, or I'm going to start again in 2 weeks whenever I can start. And it's because we have this expectation of this benchmark of results that we achieved before. Speaking from experience, by the way, you're like, this worked before. I know this will work again. And I know that I will get those results if I can just stick to it. Well, here's the thing. Some results are better than all the results. And while you continue to not stay on plan and you continue to choose not to do anything, you're not getting any results. So my advice to you would be, try to get real about what you can actually commit to at the minute. And what you can actually commit to is maybe training in the gym 3 times a week. And that's it. That's it. That's all you can commit to. You can't even commit to healthy eating. You can't commit to whatever. Or maybe you can commit to the menopause principles, which is no fruit, no white starchy carbs, no liquid calories, eat 30 grams of protein within 30 minutes of waking up, have 1 cheat day every week. So you stick to those principles. That's how you eat. And you can manage 3 days in the gym, push, pull legs. That's it. And if you committed to that consistently over a period of time, even if you weren't perfect, you would make incremental progress in the right direction. And it would take longer, but it wouldn't really take longer because your progress would be faster, because at the minute you're having no progress.
Right. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And so the problem with an all or nothing attitude is we set these impossibly high standards for ourselves, and we're also impatient. I guess you're a bit of a type A like me. So you're like, God damn it, I want the results in 8 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever. And I know I can do it if I just apply myself. But here's the thing, you can't apply yourself. So therefore you can't do it. So why not just accept that you can't do it and take a step back and find something that you can do imperfectly, because that is going to get you far further in the long run than trying and failing and trying and failing and trying and failing again and again and again. And then you can put in those cheat days. And here's the one thing I want to say as well, because I know your son's in the hairdresser, so I don't want to keep you. But the other thing that you have to realize is, do you have time, by the way, for this story?
Oh yeah, he's getting his hair permed and stuff. He's fine.
Okay.
It's got a while.
So one of the things I remember years ago, I've had coaching for 20 20 years now. I've had like I've worked with different NLP companies. I've had personal development coaches. I've had worked with, shrinks or whatever. And so I remember years ago talking to one of my coaches, and I said to her, I keep like falling off the wagon. I said to her, like, I really want to be fit and I really want to be healthy. And I've really set myself, or I want to eat healthy was what I said. And I want to lose weight. I said, but I keep doing things like, it was pizza night last night. We were all away at a retreat. And I said to her, it was pizza night last night. And I told myself I wasn't going to have any pizza. And I ended up eating like 3 massive slices. These were American slices of pizza, which are far bigger than our slices of pizza here, I can tell you. So everything is supersized in America, I realized. So, and I said to her, I had 3 slices of pizza. And she said to me, and she said, well, and she said, well, what's bad about it? And I said, well, it's bad because pizza is a bad food. And she said, how is pizza a bad food? I said, because it's bad, it's fatty and carby. And I was vegetarian at the time, I wasn't vegan. And I said, it's bad. And she said, no. She said, pizza is neither good nor bad. Pizza is just pizza. She said, the only time that food becomes good or bad is if it moves you towards your goal or away from your goal. So she said, if you are on a calorie and macro controlled diet because you have a goal of losing 15 pounds and you've given yourself 8 weeks to do it, she said, if you then choose to eat pizza, which pushes you over your calorie and macro goal for the day, then you could call the pizza bad. But she said, if you cut down your calories in the morning, say over the course of the day, you ate 800 less calories, and then you weighed your pizza and you had 800 calories worth of pizza, the pizza would be good because the pizza would have kept you on track for your goals. She said, food is only good or bad whenever it either moves us towards our goal or away from our goal. She said, if you're not on a goal setting program, nothing is good or bad. That's just how that's just the judgment that you place on it based on how you feel. But and this is how most of us do our lives. We're not actually on calorie and macro controlled diets. We walk around making decisions based on how we feel. And we go, I want to lose weight. Oh, I shouldn't have eaten that pizza. That pizza's bad. But it's not bad. It's just pizza. So whenever you reframe things in that way, things aren't good or bad. Things are just as they are. And if you tie in or you build in, even say if you're realistic with yourself and you're like, listen, I love to socialize with the girls in the weekend. My husband and I, we love to drink wine. So I'm going to build in 2 cheat days on a Saturday and Sunday, because I know that I'm much more likely to succeed if I can have a couple of glasses of wine with the girls and a couple of tequilas or margaritas with my husband on a Saturday, and Friday's always pizza night with the kids. So I'm going to build in Friday pizza night, wine with the girls on Saturday, and margarita Sunday. And because I know that in order for me to succeed or be able to follow through the other 5 days, this is what I need. Then you build those in, and then it doesn't become bad or good. It just becomes, that's part of your healthy lifestyle. That's part of you moving towards your goals. Problem is, we're not realistic we don't want to admit that we love these things and this is part of who we are, because society has deemed wine bad, pizza bad, Chinese bad, fatty food bad. All of these things are bad. And so we feel that a part of us is bad whenever we eat them or consume them or drink them. But we're not bad and the food isn't bad. It's just food, and we're inherently good and we want to feel good, and feeling good is so important. It's a very important part of being human. And the more you feel good, the more likely you are to stick to a goal.
Right. And that's the problem too, is I feel really good. Like when I'm working out and I was in that program and I got the results. I mean, the amount of energy I had, everything was just amazing. And I don't understand why it is so hard. Like when you fall out a little bit, why it is so hard to get started, because in your mind that you felt really good and that was, you were healthy and you felt great. Why it is so hard to get back to that place again every time.
It's hard because the place you're trying to go back to is Mount Everest. You're not trying to climb a foothill. You're not going for a hike on a Sunday. Going for a hike on a Sunday is easy. If I said to you, Michelle, let's go, we're going to do Everest this weekend, you'd be like, no, we're not. Like, absolutely not, because it seems enormous. Or I was like, hey, Michelle, you want to meet on Sunday and we'll go for like, a 60-minute hike? You'd be like, yeah, that's doable. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to climb back on Everest. The ultimate 12-week shred is a stage style bodybuilder prep. It is one of the hardest diets you will ever do. Anyone will ever do. So yes, you feel amazing when you're doing it because you get into the routine of it, but trying to get back on there is like trying to climb Everest. It's impossible.
Right.
So you should say, you know what? I'm just going to start
Baby
with
step.
the workouts from the 12-week shred. And I'm just going to look at my calendar and I'm going to say, how many of those can I fit in? I know I'm not even going to do that hateful Tabata thing that Laura created for the Saturday. I'm just going to
I actually love that.
Well, if you love it, then do it. You can say, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to do the Tabata and I'm going to do the leg day because I know it's effective. And I'm kind of going to combine shoulders and biceps and, and whatever. And work with what you've got and just get into the routine of starting again. And once you're in the routine of starting, you'll get momentum. And once you get momentum, then things start moving. But you have to just break it down into what you can do and stop trying to climb Everest. That's why you're failing. You're not failing because you're a bad person or you're limited or you're deficient in some way. You're just trying to go from, you're just trying to climb Everest again, and it's not conducive for your lifestyle.
Thank you so much. That is like, I needed that. That was like an aha moment there. Yeah.
Sometimes we just need permission. Like I say that to my friends all the time. I was talking to my friend the other day and she was like saying, oh, my mom this and my mom that. And she was like, she's going through treatment herself and her mom is quite needy. And she was like, I want to be there for her, but I really just need to focus on me. And I was like, Kate, if you need permission to put yourself first, take that. I'm giving you permission. And she was like, you're so funny. Give me permission. I was like, no, understand. If you need someone to give you permission to put yourself first, then take this as the permission that you need. And you put yourself first and you do what you need to do to support yourself. And sometimes, and she was like, that actually is life changing because that makes me feel so much better. Sometimes we just need someone to give us permission. And we're terribly hard on ourselves. That's one thing I've realized. We're terribly hard on ourselves. She should come work for me. I'm just like, just don't do it today. Just give yourself a day off. It's fine. Just lie down, have a wee sleep. Like I'm like the fuzziest person ever. I'll hold you accountable, but I'll also just tell people to be gentle with themselves,
Yeah.
Do you feel better? Does that help?
Yes, I did very much. Thank you so much.
Good. You are so welcome. Amy Love is saying, I'm gonna mute you again, Michelle. I'm gonna take another call, another question. Amy is saying, there's a Tabata. Where? I love Tabata. I think it's in a couple of the programs, but Laura writes the programs now, so I can't remember where everything is, unfortunately, but Laura will tell you. Okay, what other questions have we got? I'm looking through the comments. If you have another, if you're a person who has a question and you're going to put it at the bottom, I'm just looking through all the different comments. Let me see. Anybody have one at the bottom? Okay. Nancy, let me see yours. What I struggle with is only having enough motivation and time to do the things I wish to do for myself. What I have strength for is to half-ass whatever I'm doing. This is probably because I multitask. At the end of the night, I don't have it in me to nurture myself. I'm in EBM and I just need squeaking by. I feel shame and frustration around myself. I've been a caretaker for both my parents for a decade, and I'm an emotional eater. Okay, Nancy, where are you? Let's have a chat. There you are, Nancy. Okay, I'm asking to unmute. Can you hear me, Nancy?
Yes. Can you hear me?
How are you? I can, yes, but you need to maybe hold it a little closer. It's quite, it's quite low. Or maybe I just need to turn up my volume. No, it's all the way up. Okay, that's fine. We can hear you. I just want to make sure that, oh yeah, that's better. That's much better.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Tell me what's going on.
I've attempted several programs when they came up, like in competition. So in this one, I joined this one as well. My situation hasn't changed, but like, of course, every time, like you mentioned, it's kind of, every time one comes up, I feel like, okay, this time I learned something from the last time, which is true. But then when I'm in it, and especially this one that's 6 months long, obviously life also happens. But really, it's that it has really caused me to like confront these issues that have been there all the time, which is essentially like everybody else's stuff comes before my my things. And so with that, I just really feel like looking at the programs and looking at you guys working out, because I have like the TV thing, and like I see you guys working out, which is all motivational and deflating at the same time, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I really
But
just feel like I would be happy to just be able to see more of a change in myself, and the emotional eating thing really has been triggered so much by this program. I don't even know why.
when you say it's been triggered by this program, what do you mean?
I feel like I don't know. Like I feel like maybe because it's like 6 months long in the beginning, I just felt like, okay, well, if I slacked a little bit, that's not a big deal. But it seems like in my mind, I'm thinking I have all this time, and now we're like halfway done already. Like we're already phase 3 is coming up next week. So, and I feel like the changes have been in my mind so small for me, because I have not been able to just get get it together. You know what I mean? Get a consistent flow together. And I find like I have to work out in the morning sometimes. I have to work out at 10 o'clock at night sometimes, or things like that, that I feel like, is there a better way, is what I keep asking myself. Like, did I just miss an opportunity today that I could have just kind of, put some of the other things on the back burner, those types of things. But by the end of the night, I just feel confused and, defeated. And that starts emotional eating. Sorry. Somebody, of
No, it's
course.
good. It's good. It's good. There's a lot in what you're saying. So it sounds like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm very direct, by the way, just so you know, but it's always with love. So, and from experience, because there's nothing anyone here can tell me that I haven't done myself, just as an FYI. It sounds like in some way you know that you're not choosing to prioritize the program or the eating or the training or yourself. Like you choose every day not to prioritize it, and then when it comes to the end of the night, there's no downside to depriving yourself, if you like, because you didn't really stay on plan anyway during the day. So I may as well just, eat all the food, or lie on the couch or do whatever, because I wasn't really committed during the day anyway. Because whenever we're not really committed during the day, whenever we're committed, it's easy to keep the commitment. Whenever we're not really committed, then that non-commitment carries through the day and the night. So it doesn't really sound like it's an emotional eating problem to me. It sounds like it's more of a commitment problem. How does that sound? Oh, it's not working. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Oh, you've muted again, have you? Oh, sorry. There.
Yes, sorry.
There.
I muted myself and then I couldn't get back.
Oh,
Okay.
it's fine.
I mean,
Did you hear what I said? I know you were moving around. Did you hear what I said? Yeah.
I did. I'm sorry. Of course, the doorbell rang.
Oh, it's fine. Don't worry.
I did hear what you said. I mean, I do agree. I feel like I understand what you're saying, and I do agree. I think the emotional eating part is that the evening might start out that way, but I'm also not really sleeping. So when it's like 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm still up, that's maybe when I feel that emotional eating thing, because I just feel like, oh, I'm just, I don't know. I just feel like just, I, I can't even describe it, because honestly, this is the first time that I'm even admitting to myself that I might be emotionally eating. So I can't describe it, but I definitely feel it. And it's like a combination of all of that. And then of course,
well, describe it to me. Describe it. When you say emotional eating, describe what you mean to me by emotional eating. Like, is there a feeling that comes up? Is there a thought that comes into your head?
It's honestly like a hollow feeling, like a hollow feeling in
What? Go on. It makes you emotional.
it's just it's a feeling of just disappointment. You know, it's like every time I reflect on all the things I could not do all day long. And I feel like I get caught up in that. And then it's kind of like what you said, like, oh, well, the day went to shit anyway. So, I might as well eat cereal now in the middle of the night. You know what I mean? And it's not like, I mean, I've been vegan for many years. So it's not like I'm tempted by a lot of whatever
Hmm.
normal stuff you would eat, but it's not that. It's just the eating part of it. So, like you said, like the pizza, is the pizza batter or not? Is the cereal that bad? Not really, but it is in the way that I feel it. And like I don't really stop eating until that
Nancy,
hollow feel.
Nancy,
Yeah.
Nancy, I want you to describe that hollow feeling to me. What does it feel like? What does it feel like in your body? Is there a temperature or a pressure, or does it move around? Where do you feel it? Point to me in your body where you feel it, like
I really feel it like in my solar plexus,
in your solar.
like
Is
right
is
there.
does it
Right, like
does it
right.
push? Does it push, or does it squeeze, or is there any movement? Like really focus on it and
No,
amp it up for me. That feeling. I want you to
it's
bring it up. I actually want you to make it stronger. Can you make it stronger for me? And I know I'm asking you to do a really hard thing here, so see if you can stick with it. You said it was in your solar plexus.
yeah. I mean, what it feels like is a sort of like almost like burning acid
Like a
reflux
burning
type
feeling.
of feeling. And at the same time, a very like overinflated type of feeling, but
Okay,
hollow. You know what I mean?
tell me what it reminds you of. Is there a memory pops into your head whenever you focus on that feeling?
Um,
There
Abandonment.
will be. What? No, there will be a specific memory. What do you mean abandonment? Something will have popped into your head and you might have pushed it aside, but whenever you focus on that feeling, a situation, something probably from your childhood, your early childhood will have come into your mind. Do you want to tell me about it? What happened?
Um,
You don't have to if you don't want to, but I can probably help if you do.
I mean, what comes to mind for me is that even as a child, I had to take care of my grandmother. And all my life, I've been taking care of other people. So I took care of my grandmother, then my aunt when I was a teenager, and then my parents now as an adult. So the hiding, I guess is a better word instead of abandonment. I just feel like this hiding, I just have memories of like closing myself in a room and just being able to like just hide from my responsibilities as a kid.
Was there a specific time you remember?
Um, not not really because it was pretty daily. It's a daily occurrence. So I just, I'm talking like probably about 8 years old, 8 or
Okay.
9 years old, when it really was like, I had to share a room with my grandmother that had Alzheimer's. So during the day was the only time that I could kind of close myself in the room without somebody being there. So that's what I remember. That's what comes up for me.
I was thinking you're so brave, honestly. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a really strange question. Okay. Um, what was the worst part about the situation for you?
Uh, I think just being expected to be responsible at that age, really. Like there was a lot of fear around that because I felt like if I made the wrong decision for my grandmother, she could like, disappear or she could fall or something could happen to her. And I I was responsible for that.
Did your parents tell you you were responsible? Did they give you that responsibility, or was that something you took upon yourself?
No, they gave me that responsibility.
So you as a young girl were were informed, is that the right word, that it was your job to look after your grandmother? Is that was
Yeah. And my brother, my younger brother. So, because both my parents worked full time. So it was my responsibility to make sure that everything was fine until they got there. But then even after they were home, I still had to watch over my grandmother.
okay? So the worst part was,
It's really, I think, just the constant pressure of the responsibility. I never really got a break from that. You know what I mean? Like there was no, the only break was at night, similar to what I'm going through right now. So
okay.
the not sleeping is since I was a very young child. I mean, I literally, even now, I get about 4 hours of sleep maximum a day.
So you're a little girl and you have a huge amount of responsibility, a huge amount of um is pressure the right word, to perform in a certain way, to act in a certain way, to be a caretaker, to when you really weren't equipped to be a caretaker.
Right.
I'm going to ask you another weird question. Why did you choose to do it?
I I didn't have a choice. It- I didn't have a choice.
Could you have run away?
Uh, no. I mean, that's not even something that would occur to me, actually.
Right, but it would have been a choice.
Uh,
It may not have been something that you would have chosen, but
I
do you see that it could have been? I'm not saying that you would have done it, and I'm not trying to and make you wrong in any way for choose. I think what you did was a very, very noble thing, but
yeah.
I want you to see, I guess, that it was actually a choice that you made to, like, why did you choose to look after your grandma?
Well, I grew up in a very strict household. So like even now when you're saying about running away, there I don't think I could ever do that. I was never not supervised in some way or do you know what I mean? Like confined in some way because it was just a very strict upbringing. So like we didn't go outside to play and things like that. That was
So the only time, it sounds like the only time you ever felt you had free was in the evening, whenever you were able to go into your room and close the door. And that was the only time you ever felt free.
exactly. Yeah,
And the rest of the day you weren't free.
right.
You weren't
Right.
free to just be a normal, young, little, fun-loving, carefree girl.
Yeah, exactly. And even at night, I had to share my bedroom with my grandmother. So it would be like she had to be asleep. And then I had some time to myself.
Nancy, I'm going to ask you a question that is going to be hard for you to consider, but I really want you to pause when I ask it, and I want you to try it on, okay? What if, even though your situation was very hard and not what you would have chosen for yourself, what if it didn't mean that you weren't free?
Okay.
And that's why I asked about you, about running away. And you said, I couldn't even, I don't even see how I could have run away because I was supervised at all times. Well, kids aren't supervised 24 hours a day. There's 5 minutes here and there where they could escape if they wanted to. And I'm not saying you would have, but what I want you to understand is that even though the situation was super hard, you chose to do what you do. You chose to do what you did. What if you chose to do what you did? One, because you didn't perceive any other options, but two, because you were fearful. You were fearful of the consequences
Yeah.
of not doing it.
100%.
Does that sound right?
Yes.
So
Definitely.
you tried on, yeah. Okay. So you acted. So when we're little kids and our parents are angry or our parents are controlling, we understand that if our parents train us very, very, very easily as kids, right? So what happens is we act in a certain way that our parents like, and our parents are good girl, Nancy. Not quite like that, but like good girl, Nancy. They let you know that this is the behavior that is acceptable, that they like. They reward you. And then you do something that they don't like and you get punished. And it can be a look, it can be a silent punish, it can be an outward angry, an outburst, it can be physical punishment, it can be actual spanking or being closed in your room or some other form of punishment. But whenever we act the way our parents like us to act, we get rewarded. Whenever we act in a way that our parents don't like us to act, we get punished. Yes? Yeah. So have you ever seen kids that are really super fucking defiant and they don't care if they get beaten and they talk back and they are like, their parents are like, I don't know what the hell to do with this child. Because they're just, no matter what the parent does, they cannot break the child. Have you ever seen or heard of kids like that?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, that wasn't you.
That was not me.
No. So you were the kind of child who realized that in order to stay safe and warm and comfortable as you could be in this very difficult situation in which you find yourself, the best way to act was to do what your parents wanted you to do. Yes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I
So
felt,
do you
yeah,
see?
the responsibility. I felt like the responsibility from, like, I can't remember a time that I didn't have the responsibility.
Right. But what if you chose the responsibility because it was easier than choosing the alternative?
Yeah. That
No,
makes
no,
sense.
I really want you to try that on. What if your parents never forced you to do anything? Because no one can actually force us to do anything unless they tie us up and restrain us. We're always choosing, but human beings choose the easiest path, especially little kids. And whenever our comfort and safety is pitted against our parents' anger, what we will quite often do is we will choose comfort and safety. So we do whatever we do whatever we can to avoid this, right? Because this is uncomfortable. So we do this because we know this isn't going to trigger this. But that's a choice that we make in every moment. And you could have chosen differently. I'm not saying you should have. There's a big distinction here. But what I'm trying to help you to see is that you were never, and this is going to be good whenever I bring this all together for you, but you were never actually a victim. Because you could have fought, you could have scratched and bitten and kicked and yelled and screamed and made their life so bloody difficult that they said, we're not putting that little bitch in charge of our grandmother. She can't be trusted. And you could have been like, yes, result. There were many, many, many options open to you, but you just wouldn't have chosen them because you're a good person. And you never, you wouldn't have wanted to trigger your parents' anger because you wanted to stay safe and comfortable and warm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It does.
Now, let me ask you a question. Is there anything wrong with that? Is there anything wrong with choosing to do what your parents want you to do, with choosing the harder path in order to live a more comfortable and safe life as a little girl?
No.
Is there any downside that you can see?
I mean, I just never chose myself. That to me, that's the downside. I never actually
What
chose
if
myself.
you did? What if you were always choosing you?
Do you mean by doing what I thought was keeping me safe?
By doing what was comfortable. You chose your comfort over everything else. You always did, and we always do as human beings. Because if you didn't do what you were told, you got punished. Emotionally, physically, I don't know how, but you chose your comfort over everything else. Unfortunately for you, comfortable was, for most people, comfortable is here. Your comfortable was here. For most people, your comfortable was super uncomfortable. But it was the most comfortable option that you had as a child.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So what would have been different if you had have known that then? So go back to little Nancy, 8 years of age, standing in her room, closing the door, thinking, this is the only time that I have to myself. This is the only time I'm free. What would have been different then if you had had the knowledge that you have now, that you were always free?
I think I would have had the courage to speak up for myself, you know, and to voice, to verbalize my own, what was going on with me.
Your own needs.
Yeah.
You just didn't even know that was an option because no one ever told you that your needs were as important as everyone else's.
Right, that's true.
And what if you had a right? Because that was how they controlled you, by making you think that your needs weren't important. They made their needs, because your parents were limited. They didn't know that this was very damaging for kids, and for whatever reason, they made their needs more important than yours, and you went along with it because you didn't know you had any other option. But what if you had have known as a little girl that when you grew up, you would never have to take care of anybody ever again if you didn't want to?
Yeah, I definitely wish I knew that a lot sooner.
Because when we recognize that we're choosing in every single moment, we know we can choose differently when we grow up. And you would never have to do anything you didn't want to do ever again. You would be free. Because when we're kids, we have to do what our parents tell us to do, because the alternative is really just not an option. Running away. I mean, it is for many kids, but Laura will tell you, in her family, she had two brothers, and and one of her brothers, Michael, used to fight, like, with her parents, and and he would have, everyone's parents, not everyone's, my parents were controlling as well, but Laura, like, was just really good and did everything that she said, and kind of was like meek and mild to try and avoid the discomfort. Michael, her brother, went head first into the discomfort. He yelled and screamed and fought and shouted, and used to scare the shit out of Laura. She'll tell you, when she was younger, she couldn't understand why he would do this. Why would he not just avoid the conflict? But for him, that was how he dealt with the conflict. He hit it head on. And as a result, he probably was, I don't know whether he was happy or not, can't even make sense of that. But anyway, you see, different people deal with things differently, but it doesn't mean that we're not free. We're always choosing. So what if you don't have to wait until the evening to be free? What if you can be free the minute you wake up in the morning? And you can be free all day. And what if you were free all day as a little girl? Maybe not free to change the situation, but certainly free in how you chose to respond to it. You always had freedom in that.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Does that make sense? Try that on for me and tell me
It
what
does.
would have been
But
different if you had known.
well, honestly, I can't imagine as a child in my like in our situation, even the way that we lived and everything. I can't really imagine that right now because I don't see a way of that. But I feel like applying that, I mean, I'm kind of living the same life right now because I'm taking care of my dad. So I feel like I'm trying to think of it like applying it to my life now. How would that freedom, how would I be free right now? You know?
You are free. You're choosing to look after your dad because you're scared of the alternative. But that doesn't mean that you're not choosing.
That I definitely understand. I did chose, this was very conscious because I took care of my mom also
Right.
with Alzheimer's. And I actually did not expect to have to take care of my dad.
Can you hold the microphone a little closer? It's very, very, very low. Thank you. Or maybe turn up your volume. I just wanted to make sure everyone can hear. So here's the thing. It's not that you would have, even if you try it on like that. I'm not saying you should have, fought back or screamed or yelled or been defiant or any of those things. I'm not saying that you should have. As long as you can see that it was an option you could have chosen, but you chose to put your own comfort and safety first, understandably, as a child. It doesn't mean that the other options didn't exist, though. You were as free as you could have been in the situation, but you were always choosing. You couldn't have chosen to change the situation. You couldn't have chosen to have a different bedroom, but you did and always chose how you responded to the situation.
Yes, I do understand that. I do see
Okay.
what you mean. I do see that.
So what I want you to try on is, if you go back there and recognize that, put yourself in that situation and think to yourself, this is not a situation that I'm happy with. It's something that I wish I didn't have to do, but I only have to put up with it for a short time. And when I'm older and I'm an adult and I move out of the house, I can make my own choices. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you think that relates to your situation at the minute?
What do you mean? What relates? Like how to think of that I'm
How do you,
consciously
so
choosing?
well, yes. So you said when we started that you are an emotional eater in the evening, that when that you're so busy during the day and there's so much going on and you've so many different things to do and you're maybe not prioritizing working out, and then you think, could I have worked here? Could I have got there? And then whenever you get to the evening time, you emotionally eat in the evening because you have this feeling in your stomach. What I want you to try on is, do you still have the feeling in your stomach? I
No,
really
right
want you
now.
to, is the feeling gone?
Yeah, I don't have it right now.
I love that. So what we just did was we just broke a stimulus response pattern. So a stimulus response pattern is, every time this happens, I get this feeling, or this thing happens, or I get fearful, I get scared. So we just disconnected a stimulus response pattern. And so I guess what I want you to really just think about in present day situation is, you don't have to wait till the evening to be free. You're free all day, free to choose. And you're always putting yourself first, always. Even if you're taking care of others, that's putting yourself first. Maybe you can make a little room to put other things on the list that will help to put you first more. Maybe you can put yourself first a little more. Maybe you could meal prep on a Sunday, or schedule some time into the gym every morning and have a cousin or a friend sit with your dad for an hour. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I have some help that I hired to take care, to be with him for
Great.
2 blocks of time. So that gives me a little bit of time to do
I
my
love that.
job though. So yeah, I need
Yeah.
to incorporate the working out or the the eating.
You will. Nancy, that was great. That was like all my team are probably watching this. Just like, this is the kind of process that we do with our coaches every single week. So they're all like, it's so special to be able to watch someone else do this process, because it takes a really, really, really special and strong individual to be able to go there. No, Laura's nodding. They're all nodding. I can see them all. Like, it really takes an enormous amount of strength to do what you just did. So I just want to thank you for allowing me to do that. And I want you to report into me in the group or personally. You can send an email to Natalie@kimconstable.com and she'll pass it on if you want to, but I want you to report into me and just let me know how it goes over the next couple of weeks with that feeling, and does it change things for you?
Yeah. Thank you.
The feeling should be gone. You're so welcome. That
gone,
was so much fun. It is gone. I wish I could hug you. You need to seal a session like that with a hug. That was great work.
Thank you.
I hope you're so welcome, guys. Did you guys enjoy it? I know I took quite a bit of time there, but I think that was so important. I just saw it and I really wanted to go with it. I know that was a very specific perceptual shift or stimulus response pattern I did with Nancy, but that's the kind of stuff we're going to be doing except in a group setting, but not individually with people, but in a group setting in the masterclasses next week. I guess the kind of profound change that we're going to be creating, hopefully. Okay, so I'm going to take some more questions. Does anybody else have any questions that they want me to answer in the chat here? Okay, Richag is asking, if your choices result in being beaten up and locked in a dark room, you quickly learn to choose differently, even as a 4 to 6-year-old girl. The fact you existed triggered anger around you. How do you accept and reconcile that it was a choice that a 4-year-old was making? Here's the thing. You don't need to reconcile it. It never, knowing that you chose to go to avoid physical pain and abuse, doesn't in any way take away the physical pain and abuse, take away the horror of what happened. Sometimes I think whenever we ask people, or whenever I ask people or do this work, I say, well, I bring them to be at cause. It's not to say, well, you could have chosen differently, so therefore you have no right to suffer over this. It's never that. It's whenever we recognize that we're choosing in every single moment, and sometimes we cannot choose our physical surroundings. Like there are people in prison who cannot leave prison. They have no choice but to be in prison. Sometimes we cannot choose our physical surroundings, but we can choose how we respond to them. So we always have freedom in some aspect, and recognizing that you have freedom and you had freedom, that other options were open to you, but you just didn't perceive them. That sometimes is enough for us to go as adults. The goal is not to go back to a 4-year-old and say, oh, well, I could have done this or I should have done this. The goal is to look at your life as an adult now and say, shit, when I was 4, this thing defined me and it defined the rest of my adult life. And I've been making decisions based on the fear that was created from that situation. So Nancy has actually been making decisions based on, basically what happened with Nancy there was Nancy believed that she wasn't free as a child. So, but she didn't recognize that she was free, that other options were open to her. So she believed that she wasn't free as a child. And so the problem is that she then believed she wasn't free as an adult. In fact, she believed the only time she was free was in the evening. And so when she was in the evening, she spends all day, I imagine, stuffing down her feelings. But then whenever she's alone in the evening and she's by herself, she suddenly feels free. And if you have one limited time of freedom, the last fucking thing you want to do is start dieting and going to the gym and doing all these things. You just want to go, oh, thank God I'm free. And so the lie she told herself effectively was that she was only free for a period of time in the evening. And that's what was limiting her. So what I helped her to see was that even as a little girl, when she thought she wasn't free, she was always free. She was always free as a little girl. And she had to choose based on a very limited number of options. She chose comfort, understandably, but that when she was a little girl, she was going to grow up And when she grew up, she could make any choice that she wanted because no one could ever control her again. And so that then creates freedom as an adult, recognizing that what you thought to be true as a child wasn't actually true. And that's what gives us freedom as an adult. To further elaborate on this point before we finish is, I had a session recently with my coach where my parents went through a very messy divorce when I was younger. We had to go to the judge's chambers and choose who we wanted to live with, whether we wanted to live with our my mom or my dad. And so my parents did a lot of emotional pawning of us kids. They basically used us as pawns. I didn't see this until much later. So they would have, anytime I was with my dad, he would have put a lot of emotional pressure on me to choose him in the divorce settings because the date was looming, it was coming up, whatever. And then my mom would have put a lot of emotional pressure on me to choose her. But my mom's emotional pressure would have been more positive emotional pressure, like choose me, look how lovely your life will be with me. And my dad's would have been much more, if you live with your mother, she's going to make your life a living hell, kind of angry, kind of very masculine way of, he wanted to scare me basically into choosing him. Mom wanted to like make it all sweetness and light and positive and choosing her. Dad wanted to scare the shit out of me and to make me choose him. And I always felt like a victim. I carried around for many, many, many years a lot of anger at my parents for making me and my sisters go through that. We've talked about this a lot. We've been like, yes, I understand they were limited, very, very limited. And they were just scared. They just wanted what they wanted. They wanted us to choose them for whatever reason. But I definitely was angry. I felt like my parents should not have done that to me, right? As a child, I was the child. I was entitled to have a nice childhood. And they should not have done that to me because they were the big people and I was a child. And so I was working an issue. I can't remember what it was. Danny asked me to focus on the feeling. The feeling brought up the memory of my dad putting a lot of emotional pressure on me, which brought up this whole thing. And I had this massive epiphany moment during the session where I realized that the only reason they were able to use my sisters and I as pawns is because we let them. We allowed ourselves to be used as pawns. And once I realized that I actually could have chosen differently, I said to Danny, fuck me. I said, you know what? I was like, we were only pawns because like we let ourselves be pawns. I said, imagine if we had have sat my parents down and said, right, the both of you, this stops now. Now I was like 7, right? My sister was 9, my other sister was 10. But I was like, imagine if we could have sat them down and said, this stops now. You're not using us as pawns anymore. You two get together and sort this shit out because Dad, you're not going to be angry dad at me trying to get me to choose you. Mom, you're not going to be nice mom trying to get me to choose you. Whatever shit you have going on, you leave us out of it from now on. Now, I was 7, right? I'm never going to know to choose that. But knowing now as an adult that it was an option and the only reason why I was a pawn was because I participated in it and I allowed it to happen. Certainly I had a responsibility in allowing it to happen. It completely transformed me as an adult. I was laughing my head off at the end of it. And I told my sisters, I was like, and they were like laughing whenever I told them to. They were like, shit, imagine if we had done that. Imagine if we had all clubbed together and just sat down and said, this shit stops now. You're not going to do this anymore. Like our whole lives would have been changed. And so whenever you see the freedom or see the choices that you made as a child, whenever you are terrified, and, and you're being controlled by your parents or whatever, because we make a lot of decisions whenever we're kid, it triggers our fight or flight. And then we feel the fear. We don't want to feel that. We want to be comfortable as a child. It's our highest value more than anything. And so we make decisions to avoid the discomfort, right? Because as children, that's all you want to do is avoid discomfort. But knowing as an adult that that's what you were choosing, that you were choosing comfort, is very, very, very freeing, because then as an adult, you go, shit, I can choose differently. Like I don't have to choose that anymore. So that's what, just to go back to your question about, how do you accept and reconcile it was a choice a 4-year-old was making. It's not that you could have changed the situation as a 4-year-old or you could have done differently, but knowing that there were options open to you that you didn't perceive. Like you could have, laughed whenever you were locked in the room. You could have, said, your anger, that's fine. You can be angry at me. I don't care. And then maybe they would have spanked you. But, spanking, unless they're going to actually, like really seriously, like cut your leg off or something, it's just physical pain. And I'm not making light of it, but physical pain goes away. And there's a lot of people put up with a lot of physical pain in their life and they survive. So a lot of times as kids, we have to put up with things that we don't want to put up with, but we choose to put up with them because putting up with them is more comfortable than not putting up with them. And then as adults, we forget, or we don't ever really realize that we can choose differently. The pain that we avoided as children, we continue to avoid as adults, and that limits us the rest of our lives. And that's what this kind of work is about. So I hope that makes sense. Guys, this was amazing. I have another meeting at 6, so I was planning to finish at 5. We went a little later because of the session with Nancy, who was so brave and so wonderful. But before I go, like, I want you to tell me, are you guys enjoying this? Is this like, are you liking it? Is this like totally like not what you expected? Is it what you expected? Like, what do you want to see more of? Like, I would love, here's what I would love, right? I would love your feedback on this. I want your thoughts and your feelings and your dirty little secrets and your childhood memories and all of the shit that you push down every day. I want to create a really safe space in the Facebook group. If you're in Facebook, I want to create a really safe space in the Facebook for you guys to just outpour all of your stuff, because knowing the most common issues that people are struggling with really does help me to formulate and create the content to help you guys. I've studied human beings for over 20 years. So I do know patterns of behavior very well, but I really think that it helps me to connect with you. And there hasn't been a lot of activity in the Facebook group, mostly because everyone's probably like, not really sure what this is or what I'm supposed to say or how I'm supposed to talk about this. But hopefully this session has given you a bit more to think about. And I would love for you guys who've shown up here today to help me in the Facebook group to generate a little bit more energy and to really get people talking about this like really important subject, because it's not really about self-sabotage at the end of the day. It's about our emotional health, really, and about treating ourselves with kindness, about understanding we have many more options open to us than we ever could have ever really perceive. It's just about bringing the dark side out into the open. That's something I'm really going to talk about in the masterclasses next week. I'm going to show you how we have this dark side. Carl Jung, the Swiss philosopher, talked a lot about the dark side and about how my take on it is every human being has a crack in the plate. We have our good, acceptable side, our persona that we show to the world that is socially acceptable. And then we have this dark side of ourselves that we hide, the side that eats, the side that procrastinates, the side that, doesn't show up for themselves, the side that drinks, the side that gambles, the side that spends. We have this dark side. But we hide this dark side. We hide it away because it's not socially acceptable and we don't want people to see it. But Jordan Peterson always says that which you most need to find, or that which you most need to see, I think it is, I'm not exactly, I'll have to get the exact quote, but will be found where you least want to look. So that which you most need to see will be found where you least want to look. And that's the dark side. That's the side that we hide, this side that has a lot of shame, that we don't want people to see. But that's the side that all of us need to bring out and embrace and integrate into our personalities if we are truly to transform, become more whole, more integrated, more consistent in our behavior and our beliefs, and to ultimately be more successful in our lives. So I'm on a personal, I was going to say 1-woman mission, but actually I'm on a 10-woman mission because everyone in the company is on the same mission, all the women. I'm on a 10-woman mission I'm sure there's more than 10 women in the company. There's like 20 women in the company, I think. We're on a 20-woman mission to transform these behaviors and to help you guys bring your dark sides out. So help me out in the Facebook group if you would. Get in there. I will be in there personally responding to everybody. So if you want to have a chat with me, that is the best place to go. And let's bring all this out in the open. And I really, really, really hope to see as many of you as possible next week on the call. Because if you enjoyed this or you thought it was good or you like what I'm teaching, you're going to get 4 days of it next week. And I guarantee you'll be a different person at the end of it and you'll see yourself very differently. Special thank you to Nancy for being so vulnerable and so wonderful. You're amazing. I love you. And special thank you to everybody who was here today. I think we had over 200 people on the call, which is amazing for such a last minute call, which shows that you guys really are crying out for this material. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Thank you for being here live and in person, for all of your questions, for all of your vulnerability. I appreciate every single one of you. And I know how hard it is to be vulnerable and how much courage it takes But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. I promise you. Okay. Love you all so much. My team, all of my team, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Every single one of you. I'm not even sure who all was here, so I don't want to name names in case I leave anyone out, but you all know who you are. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much. And guys, get into the Facebook group and let's have a chat in the Facebook group tonight. Okay. I'm going to be there all day. Well, all night for me. So let's get in there and have a chat, have more conversations over the next couple of days. And hopefully I'll see you guys all next week. Okay. Mwah. Sending kisses and hugs to all of you. Love you loads. See you later. Bye.